poor. If a diagnosis is required before providing someone with access to Medicaid, then how do the undiagnosed ever get care? Under the Republican plan, they won't get access to substance use disorder treatment. Care will be delayed or never happen, and lives will be lost. This is a common sense amendment to ensure that Medicaid cuts won't prevent our loved ones living with substance use disorder from accessing the treatment they need. My second amendment, Amendment 270, would only allow the repeal of EPA's Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund and rescission of its unobligated funds to take effect after GAO certifies that it will not increase costs on consumers. This program was designed to help Americans who are struggling with their energy bills by leveraging billions of private sector dollars to support projects that will lower costs and create good-paying jobs. To do this, EPA tapped into nonprofit coalitions of experienced community-based lenders. The potential benefits are massive. Recent analysis from the University of New Hampshire estimated that these investments will result in $52 billion worth of energy cost savings for consumers over the next 20 years. Despite these major benefits to everyday Americans, this bill would continue Republicans' ideological crusade against the program to help offset the cost of tax cuts for billionaires. Let's be clear, there has been absolutely no evidence of fraud or criminality by grant recipients. In court this week, attorneys for the administration admitted that we're not accusing anybody of fraud and there aren't any particular instance of waste and abuse. This bill doubles down on the Republicans' long-standing policy objective of undermining the program, having sought its repeal on numerous occasions. At the moment, only $19 million of the original $27 billion remains unobligated, which is intended to be used to administer and conduct oversight of the grants. If Republicans were genuinely concerned about the program's risks for fraud, waste, and abuse, they would not be rescinding these oversight dollars. Americans are struggling with the cost of living. Energy bills, despite President Trump's promises, are going up. It's outrageous that Republicans would target funding and reduce energy bills at this time. So let's make certain we go forward, support these amendments in order, and defeat this ugly bill. And with that, Madam Chair, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Tonko.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Our time now is 12:34. You're listening to members of the House debate President Trump's big tax bill that he's referring to as his big, beautiful bill. We know that the members of the House Rules Committee, begun meeting after midnight our time, 1 a.m. Eastern time, to talk about the measures that are involved in the President Trump's entitled Big Beautiful Bill. We know the president actually met yesterday to try to reach those House Republicans who are kind of these holdouts, who are opposed to his tax bill. We know that this is his second-term agenda. This is something major for the president should it get passed. We know it has to pass the House in order to move forward. This is a key piece of legislation that the president has been pushing for as he, continues navigating his second term at the White House. Again, you've been listening to members of the House Rules Committee meet about this big, beautiful bill, what it entails, and how this will affect everyday people like you and me. One of the people I do recognize on the right of your screen is Congresswoman Hillary Scholten. She's out of Michigan, specifically Grand Rapids, Michigan. She was just speaking moments before her constituents and colleagues were speaking, but they are debating the President Trump's big, beautiful tax bill that can have severe repercussions, as Democrats put it, for some of the American people, while some of the conservatives agree that this should be passed. But again, there are some key conservative holdouts who are not on board just yet, and that is why President Trump met with them yesterday. But we want to give you a listen in as we continue following the progress or lack thereof, depending on which way this goes. Let's listen in for a short moment again.
That we're not balancing the budgets on the backs of the families who can least afford it. In Central New York and the Mohawk Valley, we are common sense people. It's common sense to support this amendment. It's common sense to reject a $400 million gift from a state that sponsors organizations that carry out terrorism, potentially against our allies. It is common sense to investigate the creation of meme coins and stable coins to enrich those in positions of power and their families. I urge the committee to adopt this important amendment, and I yield back.
Thank you, Madam Chair, my classmate. It's good to see you, and thank you for the opportunity to present amendments to this bill. For months, Republicans promised repeatedly that their budget would not affect Medicaid, would not make any cuts to Medicaid, and that no one would lose their Medicaid. It's the same promise Donald Trump made on the campaign trail among his countless other lies. Well, here we are about to bring one big, ugly bill to the floor, with this committee hiding behind closed doors in the dead of night when presenting the details of this harmful legislation. Republicans are trying to ram through a slew of dreadful policies that will weaken our country, economy, communities, and families everywhere. This bill is pure cruelty. Republicans and President Trump lied to people all over America, and millions will lose their Medicaid coverage. The CBO confirmed this. It is a fact. Therefore, my First Amendment strikes the provision limiting state-directed payments, which I know worries many of my Democratic and Republican colleagues alike. State-directed payments are a lifeline for hospitals, nursing homes, and other providers in our safety net that treat a high volume of Medicaid beneficiaries. Medicaid often reimburses providers at rates below the actual cost of care. In Florida, Medicaid repays providers at about 48 cents for every dollar spent to provide care. This is why states like Florida have these agreements in place to address the shortfalls for hospitals that operate on razor-thin margins and need help bridging that gap. The Republican bill before us today would hamstring states, ironically, most of them red, by taking away their ability to manage their programs effectively and removing needed flexibility. This will have a cascading effect. Providers will be harmed, then be forced to limit services, which negatively affects Medicaid patients. And where will the Medicaid patients turn? To the emergency room. And that, of course, hurts hospitals even more because it's the costliest point of entry into our healthcare system. This will make healthcare pricier and harder to find. In other words, working families pay for Republican tax cuts to the wealthiest by giving up their own health care. That's why my First Amendment strikes this provision so that the safety net hospitals in my community and the people they serve in my district don't suffer needlessly for the benefit of the wealthy. And this affects hospitals across the country, and many will close as a result of this change. Mark my words. Moving on, my Second Amendment is deeply personal to me because many of you know I'm a breast cancer survivor, and we have millions of other cancer survivors in this country. I know what it feels like to wake up every morning not knowing what the next scan will show, not knowing if I'd be there for my children's next birthday, or see them grow up, get married, and maybe have their own kids one day. And it shatters me to know that this bill will harm people who are grasping for hope, desperate to survive this terrible disease. My amendment prevents this horrible, ugly bill from taking effect until the HHS Secretary certifies that not one of its provisions harms cancer patients and their access to care. Over 10% of cancer survivors rely on Medicaid for their care, and more than 1/3 of children newly diagnosed with cancer in our country are enrolled in Medicaid or CHIP. Medicaid is a lifeline to so many cancer survivors, and they don't need any obstacles or uncertainty to accessing their care, nor do they need to struggle just to stay alive. Also, Republicans can stuff more big tax.
Yeah, I mean, if it's pressing, then we have to do like a statement or something. But I think, since we talked about that idea, I think that would be a good idea. Okay, well, thank you.
Lauren, I'll get this lead thing updated and show. What?
Another lid update. No more mice?
We got another light update.
What is it?
Some schools cleared. I'll get it in. Whatever. We're talking about child tenants, so like dangerous. And we did get video. Back in March, we did get video. We did get video in there. So.
And you can break out that saving here's, where we're still out till 11:02.
Is there a list of that? Is there a list of all the places that still have lead?
There's like a running list, and I'm sure there's some others.
Alright, try to find.
Time, we will take a quick short break and come back with more news, weather, and other updates happening not only in our community but around the world as well. Thank you for joining us. You are watching the Wisconsin Live Desk. Welcome. If this
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk. Your time now is 12:44. Thank you so much for joining us. This is, again, if you're just now joining us, this is our way of disseminating information to you real time with what's happening with regard to politics, news, weather, other major headlines happening not only in our community, but around the world as well. One of the things we're following is a bank robbery that happened here in Cedarburg, and we know police are still looking for one of two suspects. They say robbed a man trying to put money into the ATM. Our Christina Vinzels is following this for us, leading this investigation for our newsroom. Christina, good to see you, first of all. Secondly, what do we know about some of the people involved in this particular investigation?
Still remaining today is who are police looking for? We did reach out to Cedarburg Police, and we also reached out to police in Illinois. I'll tell you about why they're connected in just a second here, but we still haven't gotten a description of the people that they're looking for, ages. We don't know if there's a vehicle in particular they're looking for, but if you're just catching up to speed on what exactly happened, police here in Cedarburg say that there was a bank robbery, and we're going to show you where this happened at the ATM. So this is the Port Washington State Bank here, honestly, right in the middle of downtown Cedarburg. And police say that yesterday there were two robbers that robbed a worker who was refilling the ATM that you can see on the other side of that lot there. And then the people took off. So we actually saw some posts on social media that there was a large police presence in Grafton, about 5 miles from here. We talked with a business owner over there who says there were several law enforcement officers in his property with their rifles out and giving signals through a megaphone, looking for people who they believe were connected to this robbery. And we don't know how much money they got away with, but the reason I mentioned Illinois police is because we know that Cedarburg police say that they tracked one of the vehicles they were looking for to Lake Forest last night, and there was a chase that pursued that ended in a crash, and we know one person was arrested after that chase. But Donovan, I do have family in Illinois, and they are getting the alerts on apps like Nextdoor and from police. I know Highland Park, their city actually posted too that they are still looking for, it's unclear how many people at this time that might have been involved in a bank robbery here in Wisconsin. The Highland Park city posted on its Facebook page that they are working with Cedarburg police on this incident. So I think that's the big question, is where are these suspects? Who are they looking for? And also another thing too, we are waiting for this bank owner to call us about what happened here. This is not the first robbery actually that this bank has experienced. Back in December, a man was charged for going up to inside and demanding money from one of the bank tellers. That man was later charged. It was a 20-year-old man. So this is not the first time, unfortunately, this bank has experienced something like this.
Let me ask you this, Christina. You answered my question to you. I was wondering if this bank has been targeted before, and I know you just addressed that. But is this like I hate to say it like this, is this some sort of bank that's normally victimized, independent of it happening more than once? Do we know if it's happened twice or third time? Is this like a hot spot for whatever reason for criminals?
I'm hoping when the owner, if they call me, will
Yeah.
give us some insight on that. But it is, it kind of, to put it into perspective, we are right downtown Cedarburg. We're on Port Washington Avenue right now, and this is the main downtown. So it's not like it's in the middle of nowhere. And honestly, the streets are small here. The speed limit is, I don't see a speed limit, but cars are going slow. I mean, there's a lot of foot traffic, not today because it's raining, but it's an interesting location. So we know at least of that one other time that someone went inside the bank and demanded money, but hoping to maybe get that answered later today from the owner when we hear from them.
The worker who was putting money into the ATM, do we know if that person was injured or hurt during the robbery? Christina?
It sounds like the worker is physically okay. I'm sure shaken up after something like that happens, but no injuries. And also in the Highland Park, in their city's post, they did put that in the vehicle that crashed, there were no weapons that were discovered. And also, Donovan, to take you back, so we did talk with that business owner in Grafton, which you'll hear from him in our reports at 4 and 5, but he just had an interesting perspective of where his business is located is right off of 40, was it 41 or 43? 43. So he's right off the interstate, and he says that that's a big kind of hot spot for a lot of crime. So he's actually installing cameras now because this is the third time in the last couple of months police have come to him asking if he has any surveillance. But he described that there's a field and wooded area in the back of his business. It's pretty rural. And that seemed to be where police were looking for the suspects yesterday and did not, at that time, at least arrest anybody over there. And that's about 5 miles from here.
Interesting. Yeah, we hope those cameras will serve as kind of a deterrent to keep crime like this from happening and businesses like the bank behind you from being victimized. So we do know that there is a possible connection, as you mentioned, to this investigation out of Illinois. So do we know what the car looks like? What kind of car that people in that part of Illinois should be on the lookout for in case they see something?
Yeah, we don't know that right now. And that is something I did reach out to police to see, just so if we can help in any way to share that information or just to let people know even what the people look like, age of those people, any descriptions to kind of help out. But at this point, we don't know. And it does sound like there were potentially 2 vehicles. So there was the one vehicle that came from here and then the other vehicle that was in a crash across the state lines. But then it sounds like if these are in fact connected, that the people in that vehicle then ran off, and it's hard to say where they may or may not be, if they're in custody or not. So we are waiting. I think that'll be a big update from police if they can tell us any information on where the investigation stands today.
Absolutely. Christina, I know for people just joining us, I know you mentioned earlier in our conversation that you're expecting to hear from the bank owner, I believe you said, and so that will hopefully provide some additional insight as to maybe what kind of surveillance images that person may have that can sort of help police and help the public really keep a close eye on the people police say could be connected to this crime. And again, folks, if you're looking at this is the Port Washington State Bank in downtown Cedarburg, where Christina Van Zelst is reporting from. We know that there was money being loaded into one of the ATM machines. Police say 2 suspects approached the worker and stole a bag of money. We don't know how much money was stolen here, but we do know that police are continuing to investigate. This is a very open and active investigation. Again, our Christina Van Zelst will join us a little bit later in the broadcast on Fox 6 at 4 and 5 with what we know so far as it relates to this investigation. Christina, thank you so much for joining us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. As always, it is a pleasure. And we look forward to seeing you and learning more about this investigation.
We will definitely keep you posted 4 and 5 o'clock tonight.
Alrighty, wonderful. Thank you so very much, my friend. Alrighty, folks. Alrighty, well, as Christina gets into that, we will likely take a
Glad the
quick
owner didn't
short
call me
break
then.
here in just a moment to sort of regroup and connect with Christina again about what she knows with regard to this investigation. And we're also going to keep an eye on what's happening around the country involving politics, where the House Rules Committee is debating right now on Capitol Hill about President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Essentially, they are debating whether or not this is going to pass lawmakers and if it's going to be able to go to the House floor for a vote. This is something that both Democrats and Republicans are very divided upon, but it's also something that hardline Republicans are speaking out against. We know the president met with those Republicans yesterday on Capitol Hill, trying to persuade them as to why the American people need this big, beautiful bill to pass, trying to move the needle. So we'll see if the president's efforts were successful or unsuccessful as the day progresses. We do know, as well as it relates to the president's big, beautiful bill, that House Speaker Mike Johnson, of course, a Republican, says that there could be a vote on this today. Of course, we're just going to have to see how this whole thing plays out as time progresses today, but that is something we are following closely, happening right now on Capitol Hill. Well, this and more when we return to our Wisconsin Live Desk. If this is your first time joining us, this is our digital way of disseminating information to you with regard to what's happening all over the country, the world, and our own community. If you are joining us again, welcome back. Great to see you. Thank you again so much. We will be right back after this quick, short break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk. Your time now is 12:56. I am Donovan Long, in for Carl Deffenbaugh this afternoon. If you're just now joining us, this is the Wisconsin Live Desk, as I mentioned, our new digital way of disseminating information to you with regard to what's happening all over the country, the world even, and of course right here in our own backyard in southeastern Wisconsin. If you've looked outside lately, then you probably have seen all of this. Okay, one, some choppy waves here along the lake, which is kind of an indication of what's happening around outside. Let's get a look at it here. Right now, we're looking at some of our roads, our roadways here. Traffic moving, as you can see right here, a little slowly. That's probably as a result of the construction happening out there, and of course the wet roads. You want to make sure you are driving safely to your destination. Give yourself a little more leeway, a little more space when you're behind or trailing another driver, because the roads are slippery out there. We do know that rain will continue to persist today. The gray skies, the gloominess, we know you don't love it. In the 40s, It's going to get better, though. I was talking to our meteorologist, Holly Baker, at the 11 o'clock hour, and she was saying that, yes, it is gloomy right now. Things are wet and soggy at the moment, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The good news, folks, it's going to get 20 degrees warmer by the weekend as we head into Memorial Day weekend, and things will be clear outside. We're talking blue skies with some sunshine, so considerably warm out there, hopefully warm enough for those of you who like to barbecue, to host a barbecue, a backyard cookout. But we just got to get there. Slow but steady. I get it. Speaking of slow and steady, that's really what we're seeing on the roadways right now here. This is one of our DOT traffic cameras giving you a real-time view of what the roadways look like right now. You can see the raindrops on the lens of this particular camera, which sort of indicates how kind of nasty it is out there. And some of the roadways, there's some congestion on there, kind of bringing traffic to a bit of a slowdown. Nothing that's a standstill, but certainly traffic moving a little more slowly than what we're used to seeing if there aren't any congestion on the roads or any issues on the roadways there to kind of hinder your ability to move forward a little bit faster. But yes, that is what we're dealing with, kind of the name of the game today. Again, things will get better. According to our meteorologist, things will get to about 20 degrees warmer. It's 40 degrees now. We're in the 40s, 45 specifically, so it will get in the 60s, mid to upper 60s by the weekend time. And so that is the good news as you start planning your Memorial Day weekend. Again, welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk, where we are talking all things weather, politics, news, and the latest headlines happening around the country. Want to give you a live look now what's happening on Capitol Hill here. This is the House Rules Committee. Members are meeting, debating President Trump's big, beautiful bill. This is the president's tax bill. This is something he has been advocating for as a huge second agenda item, in his second term in office. The president, we know, was on Capitol Hill yesterday advocating and really, making his messages toward Republicans who are kind of holding out on voting in his big, beautiful bill. He's trying to get them to move the needle, persuading them why the American people need this bill. Now, the Republican holdouts are concerned about spending cuts. Democrats, of course, arguing that this bill favors the wealthy and cuts social programs. In the midst of it all, Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, also a Republican, is saying that he expects there to be a vote on this bill today. We have to see how the rest of the day plays out because we know this has to move to the House floor for an official vote in order to even move forward, but we are not there yet. Again, members of the House are deliberating, they're debating, sharing personal testimonies about this. Let's listen in to what they're saying right now.
Infrastructure and tribal priorities in the Pacific Northwest. That's why I'm also offering several additional amendments to ensure proper staffing at NOAA, force the administration to release bipartisan infrastructure law funding appropriated by Congress, require tribal consultation, and increase funding for critical tribal education programs. Unfortunately, in committee, my Republican colleagues seem to be scared to even engage in conversation or debate on this bill or any of my amendments. So that's why I'm back here in front of the Rules Committee asking if any Republicans here are willing to speak up and defend the terrible cuts included in this bill. And if you also aren't able to find it in you to speak up about these cuts, that I urge you to make my amendments in order, and let's take it to the House floor. Thank you.
I'm going to take a point of personal privilege here and say, I thought members could see from the last panel and from the way I've conducted this meeting that I'm trying to be very bipartisan and to respect everybody who's here. I generally do that. I hope that's what's coming across. So I ask people to see that we try to be a role model here in being bipartisan and not to attack members personally. We can disagree on policy, but we don't need to attack each other personally. Mr. Larson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and let me thank you for your perseverance, your patience, and your practical application of getting through this process. Let me also commend my colleagues on the Democratic side for their persistence in making the public fully aware that all legislation has consequences. I have an amendment that's focus is on economic development.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Our time now is 1:02. We are listening in to the House Rules Committee meeting on Capitol Hill. They are debating the president's big, beautiful tax bill. That's what the president is calling it. They are trying to see if this is something that the American people need. We know the president has been advocating for this for quite some time, a huge item in his second term as commander-in-chief. We know he met with lawmakers, specifically the Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill yesterday, trying to get them to move the needle. He's targeting his messages toward the Republican holdouts, the holdouts in his party, the more conservative holdouts who aren't really essentially in favor of his big, beautiful bill, citing what it represents and how it's going to affect the American people. House Speaker Mike Johnson saying we could see a vote on this today. We don't know if that's going to happen yet, if that will come to fruition, because, well, members of the House are still debating this, so we got to see how this plays out as the day moves forward. So we will keep a close eye on this on Capitol Hill as it develops. In the meantime, want to bring it a little closer to home now with what's happening here in Southeast Wisconsin. So you're taking a live look now at what's being called AARP Wisconsin's Scam Jam Fraud Awareness event. It's happening right now in Oak Creek. Things are slated to get started at 1 o'clock here. It's a little after 1, so it looks like it might be a speaker getting introduced right now, but they are trying to essentially make sure that you all are not victimized this time of year. They're letting you know how to protect yourself from scam alerts and fraud attempts. Let's listen in to see how this can be of great benefit to you as you plan the rest of your week.
Have a voice with state and federal advocacy. If you want to learn more about any of those efforts, you can visit the website. There's also a little handout on your table, a booklet that has all of those links in it as well, so be sure to check those out. You don't have to be a member to take advantage of those. And so speaking of scams, I want to do just like a little icebreaker, and please don't hate me. I know some people hate icebreakers, but if you could introduce yourself to someone at your table and share about a scam that you heard about recently. And there won't be a quiz. I'm not going to call on people. I just want everybody to kind of share what they're hearing recently. So just take a minute to introduce yourselves.
There we go. I had the mic muted. There we go. I'm back here. All right, so you're looking at a live view of the AARP Wisconsin's Scam Jam Fraud Awareness event. It's happening in Oak Creek right now until about 4 o'clock. Want to leave some of the noise in there. What you're looking at are people getting to know each other. This is kind of an icebreaker that the organizer said she wanted to start this program with. This really is an opportunity for a lot of folks out there to learn how to best protect themselves against scammers and people who are out to victimize some of our more vulnerable parts of our community and people in our community. So this is going to be something of great benefit as we, of course, get into the summer months and Memorial Day weekend and the other holiday weekends we have coming up. We know a lot of times, according to experts, these are times, unfortunately, that people who are looking to harm you do so because there are so many deals that are offered during holiday weekend, so many deals on food, clothing, debit, credit cards, a lot of offerings being made this time of year as folks start planning their summer vacations, and they don't want you to be people who are preyed on, who these skimmers and scammers and people who are into fraudulent behavior. They don't want you to be targets. And so they are holding this particular event right now in Oak Creek from 1 to 4 to make sure that you know how to best protect yourself from being victimized. So let's listen back in. I think the icebreaker is just now wrapping up, but they are getting ready to start more of their program.
To hear our wonderful speakers today. So I just wanted to do that little icebreaker and to have you all kind of share for 2 reasons. First of all, I'm sure none of you sat there and said, I've never had a scam text, or I've never gotten a scam email, right? So this kind of helps us all remember that scams target everyone. We're all dealing with this. Education is one of our best tools, and also talking with each other about what we've heard about is also a great tool. So I encourage you today, you might hear some stuff you know. Be sure to share that with other people in your life, and hopefully also you will learn a lot of great stuff today and share that also. And just a quick show of hands, how many people mentioned those unpaid toll scam texts? Anybody talk about those? Yeah, those are a scourge. So thank you so much for indulging me in that icebreaker. I hope that you met a new friend. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker for the day, which is Michael Domke from Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. Michael is the director of the Bureau of Consumer Protection, and in that role, he leads a team of consumer protection specialists, mediators, investigators, and outreach liaisons who provide support and education to Wisconsin consumers and businesses. Each year, the Bureau receives over 100,000 consumer contacts, mediates 11,000 complaints, and returns millions of dollars to consumers. Prior to joining the Bureau of Consumer Protection, Michael served as the section chief of the Department of Transportation's Dealer and Agent section, as a police officer in the city of Fond du Lac, and retired after 22 years of service in the U.S. Army and Army Reserves. Please join me in welcoming Michael to the stage.
Good afternoon. I've had a chance to talk to a few of you, which has been fantastic. Hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to all of you. But in my time up here, I want to kind of breeze through a lot of things that we have exposure to. And the goal is to give you a little bit about all of them. Some of them you'll have heard about before, so I'm just going to touch on and highlight some of the individual scams that we're seeing and some protective tips that you can have as we get through. But before I do that, how many have heard of the Bureau of Consumer Protection before you came today? That is fantastic. I asked that because one of our goals is to just purely bring awareness that we're here to help, that we have resources to assist with a lot of things, and really kind of give an overview of what the agency does on behalf of all of you to help out. The first is we have a hotline, Monday through Friday, 7:45 to 4:30. I always pitch them. If you have a question about anything, you had a transaction with a business, anything we talk about today, please call them. The team is amazing, and you'll get to one of the live agents within 30 seconds. Real live person, 30 seconds, you can hold me to that. So please call us. They're experts, they know what they're talking about. Second is we also mediate complaints. So if you're out there in the community, you have a transaction that doesn't go quite what you want, or a subscription, or some type of business relationship, and you're like, you know what, they didn't hold to their word, or this is what we agreed to, please call us. We can help with that. What we'll do is you file a complaint with us, and we'll go ahead and reach out to the business and say, hey, what happened here? And we'll try and make sure we can get you that money that's owed or resolve it to satisfaction that both of you agree to. We also will get out there and educate. We have 2 outreach specialists. This is what they do full time. Most of the time they would be here, but I always steal the fun ones. Sometimes it's okay to be the boss. So I get to come out here, leave Madison, and actually get out to do what I love to do, and that is interact. But we have opportunities if you want, they're free. We'll come out, all we need you to do is just give us an audience, and we'll go ahead and talk about a variety of topics. What we'll also do is we administer the Do Not Call law. So that is our Do Not Call registry. I have some literature over here. If you're not signed up, I really encourage you to sign up. It won't stop every call from coming in, but it will limit them a little bit. And so that it certainly helps, at least that reduction feels good. And then we also help with identity theft assistance. So if you fall victim to identity theft, you have some kind of those telltale signs, please call us. We can help with that recovery process. We don't go catch the bad guys, we leave that to law enforcement, but we will work with the creditors, those lenders, to try and get those loans taken care of or any of those fraudulent charges resolved so that we kind of limit the damage that's done. And then we handle a lot of security products, unsafe issues, things like that. So with all that, kind of that's who we are, kind of what we do. And here's we're going to talk about scams and focus on that for a little bit. I want to talk about a little bit of data that's kind of eye-opening for me. I found that half of the world encounters a scam at least once a week. So we're here all talking about, and we all took some time to share about a recent scam you've heard about, but think about that. Half of the world sees one once a week. That's a lot of people, and that's only once a week. So think about during the duration of those 52 weeks, chances are we're all going to encounter a scam at some point.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Time is 1:11. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk. Donovan Long here. You're listening to the AARP Wisconsin hosting what's called a Scam Jam. They are trying to make sure that folks there, and if you're tuning in online, folks who are connected with us, know how to best protect themselves from scams and fraudulent activity that unfortunately exists in our community. We know experts are saying that so many people are looking to take your credit card information, looking to misguide you and misdirect you with these text messages they'll send, hoping to try to get your bank account information and other personal information that you don't want to be compromised. And so this event is being hosted in Oak Creek from 1 to 4 today. We know that about 100 residents in the Milwaukee area are attending this event. We know the experts here are giving people great information, great advice, and great ways to best protect themselves, again, from people who are just looking to victimize them for no apparent reason other than because they hope they can. And so these are one of those events that are super beneficial and very, very needed in this community. They make sure that people continue to live their daily lives, maintain their normal routine without involving themselves on accident in some very unfortunate behavior. Let's continue to listen into what the experts are saying and how they can best help you moving forward.
So that's what we want to make sure, but everyone is being targeted. Now, how are they being targeted? The takeaway here is we talk about the highest per person losses was through phone calls. The highest overall losses was from social media. The highest number of reports was emails. What I'm trying to say here is it doesn't matter. They're not picking one particular way to get to you. They're picking them all. And all of these are an avenue to say, hey, this is how we want to get in touch with a potential victim. We're going to try them all. If they don't respond to our emails, we'll see if they're on social media. If they're not on social media, we'll try to give them a call. If they don't want to answer our calls, we'll send them a text. And we'll just keep coming to see if finally either somebody responds or they move on to the next person. So let's talk about those calls.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk here at our Fox 6 studios here in southeastern Wisconsin, specifically Milwaukee. Your time is 1:18. Thank you so much for joining us. We've been on the air since about 12:30, so if it's your first time, thank you so much. Welcome. And if this is more than your first time, we want to say welcome back. Okay, so the big news of the day has been the weather. We know a lot of you all are looking to leave town or maybe host some folks over for the holiday weekend for Memorial Day in terms of backyard barbecues, cookouts, or going to other folks' places for a quick visit. So we want to give you a real-time view of what's happening outside in southeastern Wisconsin. I want to give you a look at the roads here. Things are moving pretty smoothly. We know a lot of you all who work from home. You're doing so from the comfort of your own home. The other folks who are at work are right now at work, kind of past the main lunch hour at noon here. So things are pretty smooth on the roadways here, but things are still wet out there. So keep that in mind if you have to make any errands or heading to pick the kids up from school later or take them to any extracurriculars later on. Yeah, roads will be slippery. Roads will still be wet. Our meteorologists, of course, making sure that you are cognizant of who and what is beside you as you get on the roadways later this afternoon, heading into the evening commute. I want to give you another look at our DOT traffic cameras happening around greater Milwaukee area, the greater Milwaukee area. Yeah, again, this is a view that's kind of frozen in time, but we do know that things are moving ever so smoothly. The good news, though, is that the weather will improve as the days progress. So we're talking about, as I mentioned, those backyard barbecues. Get ready to plan them outside with your favorite foods and your favorite friends and family members because things will warm up 20 degrees or so. So right now we're sitting in about the 40s. We'll get into like the mid 60s according to our meteorologist as we inch closer to the weekend. So that's the light at the end of the tunnel. That is the good news. And so we are just so excited about that. We do have our meteorologist Holly Baker on standby. You can kind of unpack what you can more so expect as you plan the rest of your day and the rest of your weekend as we inch closer to Memorial Day. We'll get to her in just a second. But we do know that things are going to improve as the day progresses. In terms of what's happening around the country, we are still following politics, what's happening on Capitol Hill, President Trump's big, beautiful bill. That's his tax bill. We know that Democrats are against it, as they have been very vocal about. We know that Republicans, for the most part, are supporting President Trump and his big, beautiful bill, but there are some Republican holdouts. Trump was on Capitol Hill yesterday trying to persuade them to vote in favor of his tax bill, the big, beautiful bill. We'll see if that was enough to move the needle, but we will continue following that as the day progresses. We know right now the House Rules Committee is meeting to sort of debate the contents of this piece of legislation to see if it will make it to the House floor for a vote. They have been meeting since about midnight our time this morning, and so they are well into deliberations, well into discussions, but we will continue following this for sure because this is a very big piece of legislation. In the meantime, if you're looking at your phone or computer watching our Wisconsin Live Desk saying, I wonder what it's like outside if I have time to go here or there before the rain comes back or when things dry up, let's get over to our meteorologist, Holly Baker, who can answer all of your questions and more. Holly, good morning.
Good morning, Donovan. And yes, we've had such a busy past 2 days, and it's been like a soaker with all this rain. Like, I am so tired of it. It feels like we didn't get that. You remember that week where we had like a week of sunshine? It felt like that was only 3 days, and it was like a week and a half long stretch of sunshine. And now we have this rain. It feels like the rain's been here for a whole week, but it's only been here for 2 days. It's actually making me so sleepy, but the good news is that we don't have to worry about any of those severe conditions. The only things we're worrying about right now with the rain, or focused on, I should say, is those visibilities are still pretty low. As you see here in the monitor behind me, they'll pop it up, but the visibilities are still pretty low in our area, as well as there's a lot of ponding on the ground as far as roads, so you definitely want to drive safe and take it pretty slow as well, especially if you're in an area where the visibilities are low or that rain is just a little bit heavier. And then the chilly and cooler temperatures that we're dealing with. Today we're in the 40s. You guys, we're at the end of May and we're in the 40s still. And Memorial Day is this weekend. And usually when you think of Memorial Day, you're thinking of being outside at the beach. I can tell you this, those conditions will get better as we continue to head closer to the weekend. By the time we make it to at least the end of the day on Thursday, which is tomorrow, and we continue into the weekend, we're going to have drier conditions. More sunshine is going to be on the way. So really the rain doesn't stop. It'll continue to be more scattered, so we may have some dry time in between some of these showers, but it really won't finish until we make it into Thursday's forecast, honestly. So keep the umbrellas close. Definitely don't put away the jackets yet, because you see how the weather is pretty much flip-flopping with those temperatures. We'll be pretty chilly, but we'll definitely have those warmer temperatures like 70s to begin to return, especially as we head into June. I know I'm speaking about June and we're still in May, but that's what we're looking like as far as the next opportunity for those temperatures to really warm up. And then from there, hopefully we can stay on the warmer end of things and continue to warm up a little bit more, including Lake Michigan, and letting that area warm up a little bit more just so people can get out and enjoy it. And in the meantime, take advantage of the time where it is dry time. That's your time to go to the grocery store and perhaps make soup. Make comfort meals to at least body all of this rain and the cooler temperatures, to kind of make yourself feel a little bit better, because with all this rain, it can be a little dreary, but it's the perfect time to maybe sit in a nook if you have one and maybe read a book and look at all the raindrops on the windows. Here is a look at those current visibilities. Now, as you see, they're still pretty low for a lot of our areas along the lake. And even inland, Janesville is still dealing with some pretty low visibilities, but improvements will be made as temperatures continue to warm up. You see here those weather headlines, more showers continue throughout today. And just depending on where you are, you may get a little dry time, but we'll really start to dry out towards Thursday and even Friday. Showers could return by Sunday. Here's a look outside right now with those conditions for Milwaukee. Very, very low clouds. The visibilities are very low in Milwaukee. 46 degrees with a dew point of 45. So that is also why you're seeing a little bit of that fog in the area, because anytime you have dew points and temperatures close to each other or equaling each other, that is what creates those foggy conditions and even lower clouds. We look at our wind, it's about from the north at about 14 miles per hour. So it does make it feel a little bit cooler outdoors, especially along the lake. Speaking of which, look at temperatures now. We're flirting in the 40s. Except for Kenosha, they've made it to the 50s. They're at about 51 degrees, 48 in Burlington, 46 in Waukesha, 49 in Watertown. As we take a look at that satellite and radar, we are continuing to monitor all of those showers dominating at least southeast Wisconsin and even parts of the northwestern portion of the state. There is a little bit more of a drier pocket just in the central part of our state, but they still have those clouds and they're looking pretty gray as well. All of that is because of the low pressure system still in our area, but it's continuing to gradually move out, and then those high pressure systems are actually getting closer. So we're going to be seeing drier weather before we know it. Let's talk about it here on the Sky Vision Plus and get a little bit more of the timing for all of these storms and rain showers moving out of the area. By the time we make it to tonight, more rain to come, you guys. Wind from the north, so it's still going to be pretty chilly. Keep the umbrella handy. Even overnight, it's going to be a great night of sleep, though, because it's going to be like your natural white noise. You don't even have to play the rain sounds because you'll actually have them for your overnight sleep. But waking up in the morning, you could have a very soggy commute. So you may want to make sure you, again, take it pretty slow. We do warm up, though. So we're in the 40s now. We'll gradually get to the 50s by Friday. And even as we head into Saturday's forecast, we're looking to be in the 60s with drier conditions. So maybe we'll have a mix of sun and clouds in the forecast. Definitely we'll keep those clouds around, but maybe not as much as what we're seeing now. So definitely just keep that in your head. That's the light at the end of the tunnel. It's the warmer temperatures in the 60s, and we'll be pretty dry for the weekend. Donovan, I cannot hear you.
You know what? How about now? There we go. Technology, you know, it's a blessing and a curse. Thank you so much. I know you're from the South like I am, so this time of the year, we are ready for that the warmth, the heat, the beach weather, the pool weather, everything in between. So we'll just hold on hope that it'll get warmer more quickly than it has been.
Oh, yeah. You know what, Donovan? That is, I think, honestly, it's not bad. I think it only gets in my head, though, whenever I see other people on social media and they're like outside enjoying the sunshine, or like I look at temperatures in another area and we're like in Texas and they're like 90 degrees or something. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's what happens down south.
Yeah.
So that's the only time where the colder air here kind of like frustrates me.
It hits like, different.
Yeah, it'll hit a little different once I evaluate that. But other than that, like I'm enjoying staying nice and comfortable and not super hot and muggy just yet.
I hear that because we'll be complaining when it gets humid and hot outside. Holly, thank you so much. Always good to see you, my friend. Alrighty, folks. Well, we will take a quick, short break really quickly. On the other side, Ben Handelman will join you with what's also happening around the country and around our world and what's happening in our own backyard. We'll see you right back here in just a bit. Thank you so much for joining us right here on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to our Wisconsin Live Desk here at our Fox 6 studios. Time now is 1:30. Listen, we've been following what's happening on Capitol Hill all morning long. You're looking at a live view of what's happening in the House Rules Committee. They are right now debating the president's tax bill that he refers to as his big, beautiful bill. This is something we've been following for days now, a huge agenda item on his second term in office. We know that the president met with Republicans who are kind of holding out, trying to persuade them as to why the American people need this bill in their lives, or at least the contents of the bill in their lives. Democrats, on the other hand, are completely opposed to it, saying that it favors the wealthy. We want to give you a live look in right now, and you can hear real time what members of Congress are saying in response to the president's entitled Big Beautiful Bill.
Young, old, single, homeless, or foster youth. Finally, my Fourth Amendment would strike the permanent tax hike on foundations that would rip $15.8 billion in charitable aid from our communities, aid that supports food banks, houses of faith, veterans, disaster relief, rural health care, emergency assistance during economic downturns, and other critical needs. Policies that hurt foundations reduce grant-making to charitable nonprofits across the country. Forefront, the Association of Grant Makers for the state of Illinois, estimates that the proposed tax increase on private foundations would result in $168 million less in grants made to Illinois nonprofits each year. Charitable giving represents the best in American generosity and the exact time when charitable giving and philanthropy are needed the most to offset the cuts in federal investment. Congress must strike this charity-reducing provision. Government should help people, not harm them. My amendments would help lift the burdens of tens of millions of families and workers, as well as promote charitable service. I thank you, Madam Chairman, and yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Mr. Norman, you have any questions? Mr. McGovern.
I just want to say to all of you, thank you for not giving in and for staying the course and fighting for your constituents and for the people of this country. Those of us on the Democratic side of the Rules Committee are grateful that you're here, and I know the American people are grateful that you are here. So, again, thanks so much. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. McGovern. There being no, any of my colleagues, other colleagues, okay. Thank you all very much. You're now excused. Okay, yeah, how to pronounce that one. Mr. Schweikert, Mr. Oshevsky, Mr. Garcia, Ms. Sykes, Mr. Thompson, Ms. Simon, Mr. McGarvey, Ms. Gillen. And if you all would come down this way so we can spread out, if you don't mind. Would you mind moving that direction so people can get by?
We can fill in
So we can fill up here. Yeah, just go down, go down to the end. Okay, it makes it a little bit easier to fill in. Get over that way. You're going to be first, so it doesn't matter where you sit.
Just trying to get you all the way to the right.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think you're one of my lights.
And that way you don't have room for your charts.
There we go. There you go. Do we have too many?
Is there not another chair?
Oh,
Certainly, if you can get a chair in there. We got 9. Mr. Johnson, you will be in the next group.
Not mine.
You're not in this group, Mr. Johnson. Okay? Okay, Mr. Schweikert, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, and to members of the committee. I'm really impressed. I hope you're all very well caffeinated. Madam Chair, members, I'm actually trying to do something honest and unique here. The two pieces of legislation I have preliminary CBO scores that reach $2 trillion. $2 trillion in offsets and savings over the next 10 years. They're both morally, economically, quite rational. They do good things. The problem is they take on big concerns that often scare the crap out of all of us, but they're the right thing. So let's do the first one. I can do it fairly quickly. For anyone that's been here for a while, you've been tracking the MedPAC reports for the last half a decade, basically making it very clear that we have a major problem in Medicare Advantage and its offsets. As you saw last night, there was another scandal that broke in the media and potentially another set of indictments and criminal activities coming. So what happens when those of us who want the incentives of a system that manages care but benefits by helping our brothers and sisters, particularly in the seniors with their earned benefits, be healthier, that the insurers who manage it make their profit by having the population be healthier and not by constantly
Ben Handelman here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. You're watching what is turning out to be a fascinating Rules Committee in Washington, D.C. I bet you've never heard me say those words before. A fascinating Rules Committee. So what's happening right now on the Capitol Hill right now? Republicans and Democrats are debating the president's big, beautiful bill, as he calls it, although there are a group of Republican conservative hardliners that are holding up this bill. But this is separate from what's going on. What's happening in this meeting, Democrats have commandeered this meeting, this Rules Committee hearing that's needed before the bill can advance eventually to the House floor, which we're hearing this may make it on the House floor today, but it's got to go through this Rules Committee hearing. And what's happening is Democrats are getting to the microphone one after the other, and they are announcing different amendments that they would like to make to the bill, amendments that pretty much have no shot of making it through the Republican-controlled House, but it's delaying the process here as they're trying to point out different things that Democrats want to highlight in the bill. So the Democrats have commandeered this Rules Committee hearing, and it's now gone on more than 13 hours. This, what is normally a routine Rules Committee hearing in Washington, D.C. So that is something we are watching right now. Also, we still got our eyes on the White House right now. That is where the president of South Africa was just in the Oval Office and had a fascinating meeting with President Trump. It was another contentious meeting between a world leader and President Trump. And in today's meeting, they were talking about the white Afrikaners and the president playing videos that he claims shows genocide in that country. And there was pushback from the South African president about the realities on the ground in his country. And the South African president trying to highlight commerce and trade that he would like being brought up with the United States. But it kept coming back to this really controversial issue as a group of South African refugees have just come to the U.S., this white minority group in that country being granted refugee status here in the United States. So you're looking live right now at the White House as we are awaiting the South African president. We're expecting him to leave the White House any minute now, jump into the motorcade, and we will take that live, hopefully, when we get it for you. We're also watching locally our weather. And that is a live shot of a tire on our brand new SUV that we've got in our fleet here at Fox 6. So we've got this, and there's the different shots we can take as we're driving, right along the lakefront. Remember when there was a boat stuck literally right in this location to your left? There's no boat there anymore. Now there's just waves crashing, as it's another ugly day out there. Hey, here's what we're going to do. There's lots of live feeds coming in here on the live desk. Jason Calvi, he's smiling at me in one of these little screens here on my camera. There he is right there. Jason, you look beautiful here on the live desk. You're live on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So I've got all these shots. We're going to go back to Jason in a second here in just 2 minutes, but we'll see where the next hour brings us.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Oh, it is 1:42 on your Wednesday. I almost said Tuesday because that's what kind of day it's been for me. But hey, welcome to the Wisconsin Live Desk here exclusively on Fox Local from this room here deep within the Fox 6 studios. I have different feeds all around the country, like we're trying to see right now if the South African president is going to walk out of the White House. I've got eyes on the weather as one of our photojournalists is zooming in on a beautiful apartment building, and you can actually see clouds are moving by as it's just an ugly day here in Milwaukee. It has not been a good day for the stock market. I've got eyes on this. The Dow down 680 points as every week here on the Wisconsin Live Desk of late. It just seems up and down and up and down. Well, today's a down day. Also, there's lots of news going on in Washington, D.C. This is a Rules Committee hearing that we're watching that Democrats have kind of taken over, and they're delaying this meeting ending. It's been going on 13 hours plus now as President Trump's big, beautiful bill is being debated in Washington, D.C. So that has been really interesting. We'll try and dip into that as well. But for now, I want to bring it back here into the Fox 6 newsroom where Jason Calvi is hanging out with us. Jason, welcome to the Wisconsin Live Desk. I know you're working on a really interesting story today that has to do, I mean, lately we've been talking about a lot of individuals who have been arrested by ICE, and there are question marks about what happens in some of the court cases that they are facing in state court. What are you working on today?
Right, so really this is a discussion about two court systems, two different criminal justice systems. You got federal court and you've got state court, right? So most of criminal proceedings, you know, homicides, murders, those sorts of things, they're usually in state court. And so that's one track. You've got state court, you know, when somebody's going through that process, they're usually in the county jail. If it's in Milwaukee County, they're going to be in the Milwaukee County jail as that court case is working its way through in the Milwaukee County courthouse in the state court level. So that's one track that you're looking at, but then there's also this track of deportations where ICE wants to deport people quickly, and there's a process for where they have to have their day in court for that charge that they're in the country illegally and the risk of being deported. So what's been going on, we've seen ICE agents waiting at the Milwaukee County Courthouse and then arresting people there who had a day in court, usually a preliminary hearing or initial appearance. You know, court cases take a while to work their way through, and at the early stages of some of these criminal cases where the defendant might be in court for domestic abuse, where maybe, for example, in the case of Eduardo Lopez Ruiz, he was alleged, the prosecutors alleged that he beat up his roommates. And ICE agents were waiting outside of Judge Dugan's courtroom to arrest him for one of his early appearances there in that courtroom. And they did end up, they said they had to chase him, but they did take him into custody, federal custody. So what happens then when they're in federal custody? What happens to their state court, those criminal charges against them? What happens to those cases? That's what we're working on today.
And it is interesting because, especially here in Milwaukee County, where Judge Hannah Dugan, this case has gone really national, Jason, when she was arrested, allegedly for helping that individual evade ICE arrest. And this may speak to some of the motivations, although some of the facts in that case are being debated in the courtroom. But people are wondering, like, why would a Milwaukee County judge try and assist someone to evade ICE? And I won't get into the details of the Judge Hannah Dugan case about what happened exactly, but there is an annoyance from judges across the state who they have a job, they want their cases to go forward, and when you have individuals suddenly apprehended, there is no guarantee that when they show up in an ICE detention facility that they will be let out. And in fact, in some cases in Milwaukee County, ICE is not releasing the individuals to go to the court case. So it is disrupting local court cases, correct?
Right. So we have a number of cases, a number of names. I know this is not a show, so I'm going to get my phone out and take a look at my notes here. Right. This is a rough. You know, we're just having a chat here, right, Ben?
Exactly. It's digital, baby. Everything's a little looser on digital. You can look wherever you want.
I got monitors over here and over here, but I don't have a monitor in
You've
front of the
got like 4,000 monitors.
So if I want to look
you.
at you, I got to look over there, Ben.
Nobody wants to look directly at me anyway.
I don't want to look at you. No, it's okay. So anyway, I was trying to pull up my email with all the different court cases that we're monitoring regarding people that have been arrested.
Yeah, it's not just one. It's not just one.
There's several of them, right? There's the former owner of a Mexican restaurant who was, prosecutors alleged, had sexually assaulted two people, one a 14-year-old woman, or 14-year-old girl, I should say, and so they arrested him, and they have custody of him. Well, his case is also, the sexual assault case is working its way through the state courts, and so the judge in that state court case actually ordered, or you know, what's called an order to produce, requiring ICE to bring that person to the courthouse for his criminal court cases in Milwaukee County. And guess what? He was in the courtroom last week for one of the appearances that he was doing court in Milwaukee County. So judges are able to issue these orders, and it looks like, at least in this case of that former owner of the restaurant, that he was in court for that. He did also then this week had a hearing regarding his immigration case. That's in the federal level. So you're seeing right now they are trying to navigate, it seems, trying to navigate what to do with having two different court systems, two different, you know, the same defendant, two different courtrooms. What are you going to do to get him to both of those? And right now, at least for that particular former owner of the restaurant, they seem to be going to both of the appearances at federal level and the state level.
And it's interesting because case by case, I always go back to the question I have: how is this impacting the victims? If you are a victim of a violent crime, something terrible has happened to you, they may have different wants and needs of what happens to the suspect in the case. Obviously, if you're deported, Jason, you're out of the country, but you may not spend time in jail, right? It can be unclear what happens to you once you leave the country and you're out of the jurisdiction. There may be some victims who are like, I want this person to spend a lengthy amount of time in an American prison where I know they're locked up instead of being deported, but it could change from case to case depending on the victim and their wants and needs.
Right, and at the state level, we have Marsy's Law. which was a constitutional amendment that voters across the state did pass. They approved it strongly, and it gives victims a seat at the table during the criminal justice phase at the state court level. So victims are allowed to give their thoughts during sentencing and be part of the court process. They're invited to various court proceedings and at various times able to share their thoughts on moving forward. So if, for example, somebody's deported before their case can be finally adjudicated at the state court level, what happens to the victims? What happens to their right to be able to have their day in court, the victim's right to have their day in court?
Yeah, all sorts of interesting questions with the process that really, Jason, I mean, these are not new issues per se, but they really have been highlighted with the recent arrests at the Milwaukee County Courthouse here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, and that's right. And as you mentioned with Judge Dugan, this has now gained national attention because Judge Dugan, the FBI, and a grand jury has indicted her on the charges. They allege that she helped shield one of these defendants from ICE agents who were waiting outside of her courtroom. According to the indictment, that she helped this defendant use a jury door to go kind of in a non-public doorway, the jury door, to then get out of the courtroom.
Interesting story. I can't wait to see, when you really put this together, when you're talking this to people tonight at 4, 5, and 6, right here on your Fox local app. Jason, I appreciate you. You are a friend of the program. Every time you come on what we like to nickname Wild, the Wisconsin Live Desk, always a good time. We don't care where you look.
What did you say, Ben?
Yeah.
This is a messy issue, right? It's an issue that is not easy to summarize, right? So we're still going through the documents. We're talking to ICE. We're talking to the prosecutors in Milwaukee. We're looking at what's actually happened in the courtroom to find out, because in some instances, the defendant has not been showing up in the courtroom for proceedings. What happens then? If they are deported, the case doesn't get adjudicated, then there's going to be a warrant out for that person's arrest. So therefore, if they're ever eligible in the future to maybe come back to the country legally,
yeah, then what happens?
They're going to have a warrant. They're not going to be allowed back in. So there's a lot of open questions. I'm getting conflicting answers from lawyers, legal experts. It's a messy issue that we're wading into with our story tonight. So I know it's a little complicated, but hopefully you'll join us for 4, 5, and 6, where we can really show you what all this research is that we gathered today.
And I think that may be the most surprising thing when your story comes out, how much gray area there is in this issue.
Yeah.
Jason Calvi, everyone, appreciate your time. Thanks for being here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, Jason.
Thanks, Ben.
All right, it is now 1:53 here in Wisconsin as we continue along here on the Live Desk, as we, again, waiting for the South African president to leave the White House. The door is open. There was a U.S. Marine standing guard at the door. Oh, okay, he's over there. I see him now. He's by the limousine, and that would tell me, on cue almost here. I think here we go. I'm seeing some officials leave, and I think we're about to get the South African president, after a very contentious meeting at the White House. I think he's about to leave here in his motorcade. Always impressive to see the motorcade through Washington, D.C. I don't know if you've ever been to D.C. when one of these motorcades zooms on by. Very impressive, but there is a whole group of vehicles that will move with this car. And obviously the South African president, the big thing he is doing today is meeting with the President of the United States. But oftentimes, heads of state, if they come to Washington, D.C., they will have a jam-packed schedule meeting with officials, not just from our country, but oftentimes with other countries. But they may often have an event at their embassy down the road, which I'm not sure where that is in Washington, D.C., the South African embassy. But if you've ever been to Washington, D.C., name a country in the world, and they most likely have an embassy somewhere in the city. And oftentimes, if the head of state arrives, it is a big to-do in Washington for that country. There may be different lobbying groups also who are hosting events today for the South African president. I do not have his itinerary pinned up, but a lot of news was made in the Oval Office today when the South African president talked with President Trump. It was contentious over this issue of the Afrikaners, that is the white minority group that used to run the country of South Africa. before apartheid, obviously, during that period, during apartheid period. And now there's been recent reports that some of the Afrikaners are the victims of racial violence in that country, which there's been a lot of pushback on the reporting. And what the president has been saying is, again, you're seeing more officials leaving the White House here. So, yeah, and you just see how many staff members can, be with a group. There's sometimes reporters that will walk out before, but when the president, and we were expecting this a long time ago. So we had the contentious meeting. We don't know what has happened since, if there's been a private meeting to talk about all sorts of issues. Every country right now is facing the tariff issue as well with the Trump administration, that all these countries, they are trying currently to negotiate a tariff deal because of the raised tariffs that President Trump has put on countries around the world. So we're watching that as well. Let's just watch this shot for a few seconds here. All right, so it does not look like, even though I thought I was going to time this perfectly here on the Wisconsin Live Desk for everybody, and I was really going to be very proud of myself that somehow we timed that perfectly. It does not look like the president is going to walk out in 5 seconds here, and we may have to wait a little second for him to come out. So we'll keep watching this shot here. Again, big meeting today. This is going to make all the headlines when you're watching your national news later tonight, this president of South Africa meeting with President Trump in the White House. Hey, this is a big deal too. What's going on in the radar as look how close we are to being done with the rain. And I say that, yet it still lingers over us right now. Look on the roads, it's been pretty nasty out there. Be careful of the hydroplaning. That was the issue last night that I saw. We don't have huge flooding concerns, but if you hit a puddle at the wrong time, that can really be bad for you. Live picture, Bo's out there, our photojournalist, doing a great job. And look how gloomy it is. He's on the east side. He's been on Lincoln Memorial, going up and down by Moosa's Cafe. You know where Deep thought the boat was stuck? Right there along the lakefront. Bo just drove by that a short time ago. And now he's putting our camera on our weathermobile, although it's also a newsmobile too. It's our newest vehicle on our fleet. It's got all sorts of different cameras on there. And this is one that he can move around, which is pretty cool. But you can see, I would not want to be a bird right now, like the seagulls that are there right now. Okay, stay with us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We're going to head back to Washington, D.C. and listen to this really, really fascinating meeting that's happening about this big, beautiful bill. You're watching the Wisconsin.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Ben Handelman from the Wisconsin Live Desk. Hey, it is 2 o'clock on the dot on your Wednesday, hump day, here in the Fox 6 newsroom. We are halfway to the weekend, and man, is it ugly out there as we continue to follow our weather. More than an inch of rain yesterday. We're adding on top of that today. Luckily, it was pretty dry around here, so flooding concerns are pretty low. We just missed the President Ramaphosa of South Africa has just taken off from the White House, so the motorcade has just left. They've shut the door like clockwork. If you want to take it live, it never happens when you want to. But just imagine a limousine leaving that vehicle and leaving the White House. That's what it looked like. Lots of news headlines. You can find them right here on your Fox Local app about what happened here today. Hey, Bo's on the move, our photojournalist. Where in the world will Bo go? Can you name that Milwaukee iconic landmark on your left? I'll give you a second here. This is what we should do. Bo should just drive around the different landmarks around Milwaukee, and we'll see if we can name them. I'm going to bring Delaney, our producer, in. Hey, Delaney, happy Wednesday.
Hey, Ben.
Do you have any idea what the name of that landmark that Bo just drove by on the left is called?
I do not.
It's the Water Tower. I think that's the name of it, the Eastside Water Tower. Used at one point to pump water around our fair city of Milwaukee. Now, Delaney, do you know what hospital is on the left at the top of the bluff right above Bradford Beach that we're passing by right now on the left?
Is it Columbia St. Mary's?
You got it! Yes! Yes, Delaney, you've done it. Columbia St. Mary's. I once visited someone who had a baby there. They have a maternity ward. I've been to the emergency room in that hospital before. They saved my life. Well, I probably would have lived, but yes, I've used that hospital before. I won't get into my medical history. And now we're driving around the east side on this soggy, ugly, nasty, cold day. 46 degrees in Milwaukee, and eventually things are going to dry out. By tomorrow, this rain will be out of here. That's how slow-moving this low-pressure system is. As the weather experts say, we are expecting sunshine for the weekend, but Memorial Day will not be pool weather, as it's going to be a little cooler around here. Warmer than today, highs in the 60s, but I'm not sure if you'll be diving into your lake out in Lake Country on our holiday weekend coming up. Let's go to Washington, D.C. Bernie Sanders on the floor. Let's hear what he's talking about. He's been making some news of late.
International prices, he said, quote, he ended it. Good news. It's all over. He ended it. We no longer pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs, according to President Trump. During that same interview, he said, quote, the drug companies were great, end of quote. The drug companies apparently even told him, look, it is time, end quote. Just yesterday at a press conference with Speaker Johnson, he claimed he is, quote, cutting drug prices by 80 to 85% because he stopped the scam. Well, there you go. Good news, America. President said it must be true because he would not lie. Drug prices are down by 80, 85%. Anyone really believe that? Nobody does. If we want to, on the other hand, do more than just talk, we got to do something, and the way we do it is with some serious legislation. And that is the legislation that I have introduced today. If we want to actually lower the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs in America, we need to take on the pharmaceutical industry in a way that President Trump has never even thought about doing. In other words, we need less talk, we need more action. And that is why I've introduced legislation to make sure that Americans pay no more than people in other countries for the exact same prescription drug. Unlike President Trump's executive order, my bill doesn't just ask drug companies nicely, please, to lower prices. My legislation makes it clear that drug companies must lower prices for Americans to those they charge people in other countries. In other words, what we are finally saying
Ben Ailman
is,
here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. So this is Bernie Sanders on the Senate floor right now. Bernie Sanders has been making some headlines, including this week when he said Democrats were a threat to democracy on a podcast. He was talking about recent primaries and was accusing party leaders of rigging some of the primaries and picking the candidates and relying on the wealthy donors instead of the working class that you hear Bernie Sanders often talk about, and saying that the Democrats had work to do, which was a little surprising to some in Washington because Bernie Sanders caucuses with the Democrats. He is an independent from Vermont, but he caucuses with the Democrats, and most of his attacks usually are against Republicans. So when Bernie Sanders criticizes the Democratic Party, that makes headlines, and that's what's happened this week. But here he is on the floor right now, and he's talking health care. Let's listen back in.
not with me and not with the Republican Party. We are going to do the right thing, something that the Democrats have fought for many years, end of quote. Well, I am just ever so delighted that campaign contributions have no impact on the Republican Party. Could have shocked me, but there we go. President Trump said it. It must be right. So, bottom line here. President Trump says he wants to lower the cost of prescription drugs in America by 80 to 85%. I agree. President Trump has issued an executive order which he says will do that. It will not do that. Legislation that I have introduced has real teeth, and it will do that. So I today call upon all of my colleagues, especially my Republican colleagues, to support this legislation, because I know President Trump has said that the huge amount of money that the pharmaceutical industry gives in campaign contributions to Democrats and Republicans doesn't have any impact on the Republicans. They are prepared to stand up to the drug companies. So that is great news. Delighted to hear that. So, Mr. President, as if in legislative session, I ask unanimous consent that the Committee on Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions be discharged from further consideration of S. 1818, and the Senate proceed to its immediate consideration. Further, that the bill be considered read a third time and passed, and the motion to reconsider be considered, made, and laid upon the table.
Is there an objection?
Reserving the right to object.
The senator from Louisiana.
I appreciate the ranking member's interest in addressing drug prices. And we absolutely have to lower the cost.
Here we go. We're getting a
prescription
response
drugs.
from Republicans on that Bernie
And
Sanders
we absolutely
speech.
have
Let's
to
listen.
acknowledge that there is a tension. If we do not incentivize the development of new types of drugs, we condemn ourselves to continue to die from diseases for which there are currently no cures. And I say this as a guy that has practiced medicine or graduated from med school in 1983, let me put it that way. When I graduated from medical school, Mr. President, one of the most common surgeries was taking out a portion of somebody's stomach. I don't mean your belly, I mean your stomach, where the food goes after you swallow it. This is how I talk to medical students. Because of peptic ulcer disease. And there came along a medicine called cimetidine. It just changed the landscape. And we went from a surgery being most common to one which was rarely performed in 6 months. Cimetidine, which is now called Tagamet, which is now sold over the counter. Just a measure of the innovation, which if we had not had that innovation then, a most common surgery would still be removing a portion of somebody's stomach because of bleeding ulcers. More tragically, or it's pretty tragic if you lose part of your stomach, when I was a resident in Los Angeles, is when the HIV epidemic came out. And all these men, they're all men, 20 to 30, came in with something we didn't even know what the disease, didn't have a way to diagnose it, so we called it the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome. And they all died. They all died. And I remember saying to one of the older physicians, why do we even bother treating them? Because they all die. But because there was an incentive for companies to come up with cures, they did, and they stopped dying, and they began living. That doesn't happen accidentally. It happens because there's incentive to bring a drug through expensive studies to the market. By the way, I recently had a doc tell me who treats HIV positives that if the patient takes their medicine, they die when they're 88 of Alzheimer's or a stroke or something else, but they should not die from an AIDS-related cancer. That is the power of innovation, and that is the power of incentivizing innovation. I could go down a list of other drugs. Melanoma. When I was in med school, if you got diagnosed with melanoma, they said, go fill out your will. Now I have friends who have been living for 8 years, 10 years longer, taking immunotherapy for melanoma. That doesn't just happen. That happens because you incentivize innovation. So what are our diseases now for which we have no cure? Alzheimer's. I lost 2 parents to it. Wouldn't it be great if we had a cure for Alzheimer's? Pancreatic cancer, esophageal cancer. I can just go down the list of things for which there is no cure, but I can tell you with the appropriate incentive, with research taking place, in 10 years, we will speak of those diseases as diseases of the past, as we now speak of bleeding peptic ulcer disease causing a portion of your stomach to be resected as something in the distant past. Now, by the way,
Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. That is Bill Cassidy from Louisiana responding to Bernie Sanders from Vermont. Bill Cassidy is actually a doctor. He's a gastroenterologist. So as they're debating health care on the Senate floor right now, Bill Cassidy, very knowledgeable in health care as he's a doctor who no longer practicing. He's still a practicing doctor, but spends most of his time here in Washington, D.C., now as a U.S. Senator with what's going on there. On the other side of the building in Washington, we've been watching this really interesting hearing going on that's happening. Let's see if I can pull some audio up on this. This is a Rules Committee hearing on President Trump's big, beautiful bill. Democrats have commandeered this Rules Committee hearing, as they have made this now a marathon committee by bringing up amendment after amendment to the big, beautiful bill, amendments that even Democrats know stand no chance of being put into the bill, but they are highlighting some of their issues with it in what is happening in this meeting there today. So we're watching that. Bo's on the move in our Fox 6 weather vehicle. That's not a weather vehicle, because it can also be a news vehicle, but today it's a weather vehicle. Bo's on the east side. Let's see here. Okay, I know where we are. Delaney, let's bring her back in. Do you know where we are?
I have no idea where we are.
Oh man, this is Farwell Avenue. We're heading south on the east side. Gas station there. All sorts of characters show up at that gas station. Good people that work there. And then you've got this beautiful park. Here's the hop. We're going to go over the hop tracks. And then I always forget the name of this little park here on the left. But the next park, okay, Delaney, here's your trivia. The next park that's coming up on the left is named after the founder of Milwaukee, the first mayor of Milwaukee. Do you know what park is on the left here?
I do not.
Oh my gosh. It's Juneau Park, everybody, here on the east side, named after Solomon Juneau. And in this park, Bo just passed it, there's a little cabin that is a replica of the little cabin that Solomon Juneau used to live in when he lived in Milwaukee. Now, he didn't live near the lake. And why did he not live near the lake? Because back then, it wasn't that great of a place to live. All the fancy people, they lived over by Marquette. And I think his actual cabin was actually closer even than where Potawatomi is. I think he lived on like a little bluff that used to be there. It's all been paved in and is now a city. But here we go. Bo has just turned west now as he's heading down towards downtown, Cathedral Park on your left. We could just do this for the live desk for the next 15 minutes to just point out. I'll give you a tour of Milwaukee through the eyes of Bo, our photojournalist. We could do that. We're going to keep watching this as we're watching the rain here today, as that is still moving through. Just wanted to quickly show you the 6-day forecast because Memorial Day is now on it. 64 with a chance of showers. So you should be grilling, possibly. The Memorial Day parades, all the ceremonies, they should be okay, but we may be dodging some showers on Memorial Day. It won't be the warmest, but it won't be like today, so that's good news. Okay, so we'll continue to watch all the live feeds that are coming in here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, and it can change by the minute here, so stay with us. You're watching live the Wisconsin Live Desk here exclusively on Fox.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey everybody, Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk. Man, has this been a packed hour. We learned how to not get scammed with Donovan Long. That was some pretty good stuff. The weather's been bad. There's been interesting stuff, especially out of the White House with the South African president. And as now we hit 2:18 on your Wednesday, it's a little lull in the action in Washington, D.C. We're still following some of the scenes from Washington as the South African president has just left. And it warms my heart to know that we're not the only ones dealing with terrible weather, as look at the weather in Washington, D.C. It's been fun to ride along with Bo, as he's been showing us just how dreary it can be, as he has now moved out of the east side. He is in downtown Milwaukee, and I'll bring our producer Delaney in. Delaney, oh, you know what? I could be wrong about this. I was going to ask you, well, let me see. Okay, Delaney, when we go underneath this bridge, what neighborhood will we be in the city of Milwaukee?
I'm not sure.
See, I could be wrong. I want to say it's the 3rd ward. Is that the...
It looks like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're moving to the 3rd ward. We're getting close to the Summerfest, I believe. Okay, I gotta get my bearings because I wasn't watching Bo's camera there. Ooh, or is he in the Menominee Valley and that's the power plant right there? If only he could speak. Hey, if you know, let me know on Twitter. So, oh wait, here we go. Wait,
He's in the 3rd ward.
He's in the 3rd ward.
Yeah.
Because Kale, our operations manager, he's, oh, okay. Yeah, we're looking at the ballet. Oh, see, I thought, why question it? That's the Milwaukee Ballet right there. See, it's a little, the weather's so bad, it's hard to tell, and these are some of the condos down there in the 3rd ward. So yes, never doubt myself. I knew we were in the 3rd ward, and there we are, as Bo's driving around. I got a new shot I'm going to show you. This is coming from New York City. That is the federal courthouse where the Diddy trial is going on right now, as this has been really fascinating. We heard from Cassie in the first few days, and then we heard from a security guard. We heard from a former singer, and now we're hearing that Kid Cudi expected to testify in this trial, and that could happen as soon as tomorrow. Kid Cudi, the rapper, had a brief relationship with Cassie Ventura. That's Diddy's former girlfriend. So he's scheduled to testify tomorrow after George Kaplan, the former assistant to Sean Diddy Combs, is on the stand today. This trial is going to last a long time. And this is federal court, so we are not allowed to bring a camera inside the courthouse. But sometimes when these witnesses, after they are done testifying, they'll walk out of the courthouse to the cameras you're seeing right there, and sometimes they'll make a statement. So this is why we're watching this right now, even though our cameras are not allowed inside the courthouse, but reporters obviously are. Continue to watch the hearing in Washington, D.C. All these Democrats, they continue to bring up amendments they want for the big, beautiful bill, amendments that even they know are pretty much dead on arrival, but they are slowing down the process in Washington. The bigger story is what's happening with the Freedom Caucus with Republicans, because those are the votes that the president needs to pass the big, beautiful bill. There have been reports that talks continue, and the president may still be meeting with that Freedom Caucus and Chip Roy from Texas. So, oh, wait, got to go to Bo real quick. He got a train. We got a train live here on the live desk as he's moving out of the 3rd ward into the 5th ward. Wow. Okay, that's good action there. Oops, stop on yellow. Good job. We got good drivers here at Fox 6. He continues to fall around. Okay, going to take one last break here on the live desk before our time is done. When we come back, we'll see where we can bring you. But you are watching the
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Ben Handelman here from the Wisconsin Live Desk, and what has been a busy Wednesday, we've got a little bit of lull in the action, and when that happens, we thank Bo Geiger, who is out there in our brand new, cool, we still need a cool name for this vehicle. One name thrown out that I like, Ground Fox. We have Sky Fox, you know, anytime we throw the drones up in the air, maybe we call this Ground Fox. I like that idea. I don't know. We can workshop this. Okay, Delaney, there's an ice cream shop coming up here on the right. We're in the 5th Ward here. Do you know the name of that ice cream shop? Right there on the right.
I can't see from back here.
She cannot see from back there. It's Purple Door Ice Cream.
That's what I was going to say.
Were
but
you? You should see. Go with your first thought. There's no wrong answers on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So this is Purple Door Ice Cream, I believe, which is on 2nd Street in the 5th Ward here in Milwaukee. As Bo's driving around, and now he's taking a right and he's heading south. Beautiful shot. He just went to what I always think is like the sneakiest industrial park. It's got all these brand new, sparkly new buildings just closer to the river here. I believe it's the Kinnickinnick that kind of cuts over there. Kind of beautiful. But yeah, okay. So that's what it's looking like. I've got a new shot for you guys, and that is our tower camera, because that's the kind of day it's been. That is the City Hall on your right there, as we're looking down Water Street towards the north, and it is just nasty out there. Just another gloomy day as this rain, we just have not been able to shake it. Picture from the cameras over the high-rise bridge looking north. And now we're looking, this is Hawley Road. Hawley Road, live picture there. Now the good thing is traffic has been moving okay at a pretty good clip today. So that's been working for us. But be careful out there on the roads, because you can see from Bo's live shot here, I mean, there's just some wet spots around. I was on Sherman in Milwaukee on the northwest side yesterday, lots of pockets of puddles, and you hit those at the right speed, it really can catch you off guard. So just be careful as you're driving around Milwaukee today, as we're trying to get the system out of here. It is a big system. It's affecting really all parts of the country now, and we're even seeing rain in Washington, D.C. on the front part of this system. So gloomy day in Milwaukee, but also a gloomy day in Washington, D.C. as looks like someone from the Secret Service is adjusting their coat on the front steps of the White House. I kind of like these cameras because you don't always realize, there's normal people doing normal stuff around some of the most important buildings in the world. And that guy was just like fixing his jacket, not knowing he's on live television in Milwaukee, Wisconsin right now. So busy day here at Fox 6. Our reporters, they're out everywhere. We're covering all sorts of things today. Our thanks to Jason Calvi, who was on the show. Really interesting issues with ICE. Once they arrest people, what happens to their cases in state court? Sometimes we've been seeing that the federal government is not releasing those people back to the Milwaukee County Jail or their local jurisdiction to face the state charges, because the federal government is taking a priority and wants them to make sure they are there for their deportation case and those court hearings that are happening in the federal court system. So Jason Calvi will be tackling that today. We'll obviously be talking about the weather and all of your headlines. The great thing here on Fox Local, you can click through. You watch us here on the Wisconsin Live Desk every day between 12:30 and 2:30, and we're going to show you what's happening live. But all of the different stories that are making news, you can click on them throughout the day here. So we're going to go over now to some First and North is on next, a little sports coverage. But if you want to check out all the other stuff here on the app, you can do that as well. Thanks for joining us. Ben Handelman. I'll be back here same time, same place. Actually, Kim Murphy's coming in tomorrow for the second half hour. But Carl's got you covered from 12:30 to 1:30. And I'll have you covered kind of on Friday. I think I'm coming back here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. So, hey, big thanks to Bo. Bo, you were the champion of the show. Now we're down on some of my favorite joints down on the 5th Ward. So, hey, we'll see you same place, same time tomorrow. Thanks for joining the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to First and North. My name is Lou Canellis at Fox 32 in Chicago. Joining me this week on First and North. Let's bring up the crew. From Fox in Detroit, Jennifer Hammond. From Fox Milwaukee, Tim Van Born. And from Fox Minneapolis, Ahmad Hicks. All right, guys, before we go around the horn, I want to start here in Chicago. GM Ryan Poles said that extending newly acquired guard Joe Thuney was a priority for the Bears this season. Bears got it done today. I think it's a big deal. They extended Thuney 2 more years, giving him now a 3-year deal. His new deal is worth $51 million, makes him the highest paid NFL guard at the end of his contract. And I love this move because Joe Thuney is so well respected in the NFL. He brings leadership that this Bears team has lacked for years. Bears had 8 captains last season. Not one offensive lineman was worthy of being a captain. This guy's won 4 Super Bowls. He played with Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes. He was a Pro Bowler the last 3 years, and he's a first-team All-Pro the last 2 seasons in Kansas City. I had a chance to talk with his former head coach, Andy Reid, about him at the NFL owners' meetings.
You're getting a phenomenal guy, great human being, an all-pro player, very tough, dirty tough. Doesn't say, again, a whole lot, but he's a good leader in that room. He's experienced. He's been doing it quite a while, so he gets it. You'll love him.
He help a quarterback, a young guy in Caleb Williams?
Yeah, he'll help. He's a good player. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. And I found this interesting, guys. The Chiefs have $450 million quarterback, 2-time MVP, 3-time Super Bowl MVP, Patrick Mahomes. But last year, Joe Thuney was named the Chiefs' most valuable player by his own teammates. Big-time move by the Bears. I want to bring in now the rest of the crew. The NFL released every team's full schedule last Wednesday. Everyone's had a week to digest it. Let's start with week 1 in primetime, Monday Night Football. Bears host the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy's first career game back here where he grew up, LaGrange Park. Ahmad, I'm telling you right now, I'm making a statement. The Bears are going to win this game. They're catching McCarthy at the right time.
You think so, huh? You don't think Caleb Williams will have a sophomore slump or anything like that?
He better not. Not with a new offensive line and Ben Johnson as his head coach.
You know, I laughed when I first saw the schedule and I saw the Vikings were opening up their season on primetime. I think they have 4 primetime games this year. What better storyline? You have J.J. McCarthy going back to his home state of Illinois to get his first career NFL start with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams and those Chicago Bears. I think that's just one of the bigger storylines of week 1. I think it's going to be a phenomenal football game, and I think J.J. McCarthy will be on the spotlight, but I think the Vikings will do a tremendous job